Hello and welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This episode is about tips for transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle. I'm Diane Randall, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you're new to the show, welcome. It's really great to have you here listening. So I want you to stay tuned. We got some great information coming to you in just a minute.
Are you too busy? Too stressed out? Unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
The Balanced Living for Busy Professionals podcast provides the best inner tools and strategies to help you break free of any habits and patterns that may be keeping you stuck in place. And it doesn't matter how busy your schedule is, you can truly create the life you want. So I want to just jump into today's episode. It's so exciting to have my guest here sharing life-changing, life-altering information regarding how we eat and what we can do to make ourselves healthier with our food. I've also shared on previous episodes, the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals show, that I've been eating plant-based foods for the past 10 years, and I've experienced so many benefits to my overall health and well-being, and I want the same for you. So today's episode can help you transition from the standard American diet to a plant-based lifestyle with some simple changes. And I'm so excited to have my guest, Laura Dietrich, Pure Nation Jumpstart Director and one of the main architects behind the Plant Pure Wellness programs for companies. Laura coaches individuals and group classes on transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle. And I thought she'd be the perfect person to talk to us about how do you transition? How do you start? Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Diane. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I am so excited that you're here. I heard you on your coaching call on Plant Pure Nation. I know you guys sell the Plant Pure Nation food, and I thought it was so awesome that you actually help people to assimilate into a plant-based diet. So I just wanted you to come on here and answer some questions. So can you tell us how you got started with this work?
Well, that's a good question. I happened to fall into it. I was working individually coaching folks and holding group classes, and I heard about Nelson Campbell and the work he was doing in Kentucky. And so on a fluke, I contacted him and asked him if he was interested in having me volunteer and help him with this project. And that was well over 2 years ago.
Wow.
And he said, I know, it was just wonderful. He emailed me back right away and he said, yes, I'd love your help. And so we started to work together on the project when they were actually filming the movie.
Oh, okay.
I know. And so I had an opportunity to help him. If you watch the movie and they show the big rally in Louisville, Kentucky. So I volunteered helping him to organize that. And so we developed a friendship. And then when they started to roll out the movie, he contacted me and said, would you like a job working with Plant Pure? And of course I said yes. So it's been a really fun ride. I've had an opportunity to do all sorts of things with him, and it's been a joy.
What an awesome opportunity and experience. And for those of you who wants to know the movie Laura's talking about, it's Plant Pure Nation. It's on Netflix. You can find it anywhere now. And if you haven't watched it, you should. Mm-hmm. So Laura, let's start from the beginning. My audience are busy professionals who are so busy and they don't have time to, that's what they say anyway, that they don't have time to make changes. So what is the simplest way to start transitioning from a standard American diet to a plant-based lifestyle?
Okay, well, there's a couple things that I normally recommend. I think one critical piece that is very important is to make sure you know why you're making the change. And this is important from the standpoint of it keeps you focused, and when things get going and they're a little bit more difficult, it helps you stay on task. So do a little bit of research, and everybody's motivated in a different way. Some people can watch the Forks Over Knives and Plant Pure Nation movies, and they are like, this is it, I'm changing. Others need more research. My husband, for example, is a numbers-based individual, so I showed him a lot of the nutritionfacts.org videos. Personally, I read a whole bunch of books, and the goal here is that whatever motivates you, whether it's knowledge or experiences from other people, but make sure you know why you're making the change, because that's what helps you stay the course. That would be my first thing. So do a little research, watch some documentaries, look on the internet. There's some great studies that have been published. Purchase some books and make sure you know why you're making the change.
Okay, so I've read all the books, and what people say to me when I talk plant-based lifestyle is, I don't want to eat salads. Because that's all they think about when they think of a plant-based lifestyle.
Yes. Well, and I think that can be the misconception that often many people have. So I think I like to start with one meal at a time, and the simplest meal to change is breakfast, because many times we're already in the direction of eating a plant-based breakfast. We just have to modify it slightly. So when we're coaching people with breakfast, we try to figure out what they're already eating and then just tweak it a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah, because the more complicated we make something and the farther we take it away from what they're normally used to, the more difficult the transition. So if they're eating an egg and cheese biscuit every morning for breakfast, which is not unusual, then I would recommend something that we eat regularly for breakfast. And that is just where we toast some really hearty rye bread. And then we put in some avocado and tomato and cucumber and green pepper. And my husband takes it to work. We wrap it up and he takes it to work just like you would take an egg and cheese biscuit sandwich. And he pulls it out when he's ready for breakfast. And it's good to go and it's delicious.
I love that you say you basically look at what you're eating and you tweak it to make it more plant-based. I love that. Exactly. Because that definitely resonated with me. But I also hear people say, and I'm just throwing out the questions and maybe some questions that I had in the beginning as well that took me time to get answers to. But you have people that said, I want to change, but my family, they don't want to change. So what do I do?
And that is a really good question, and one we come up across very often. There's two different strategies. It kind of depends on whether you're the cook or not. It's easier if you're the cook. I recommend two different directions, and you have to kind of determine how much resistance you're going to get. And keep in mind, we transitioned our family over when they were, I think, 6 through 12. So we had a range of ages when we transitioned. If you're the cook, then I recommend that you start adding more vegetables and plant-based dishes. And if you're getting a lot of resistance, then throw in a side dish of chicken or something, fish, but make the meal plant-based, and then they can add in the chicken. And this actually is something that a lot of the main providers will do. And then if they want, they can add in some chicken or ground beef or whatever it is to the plant-based entree.
Okay.
And keep in mind that the easier you make it look, and that they can see, look at, I'm losing weight, my health numbers are improving, I'm feeling great, I have more energy, I'm sleeping better, then that's going to be attractive to them. So there's kind of a coupling of making it look easy, which it should be, modeling how great you feel on a plant-based diet, and then being a little bit patient, because just because you want to change doesn't mean that they're going to want to change right away. But they hopefully will if you do it right.
And I can tell you that over the years, I was on an island to myself with my plant-based lifestyle. But just by being a role model in terms of modeling my behavior in terms of eating better and plant-based, my extended family, my mother, my sisters, they're not necessarily plant-based, but they sure will eat a vegan meal without a fight.
Yes. And I have found that exact same thing with my family as well. That they all look at what we're doing and they're attracted to it and they're leaning in towards it. And some of them have adopted it, 100%. And some of them are just eating more fruits and vegetables. It's all a win. Remember, it's a journey. And just because you're only eating more fruits and vegetables today doesn't mean that they're going to keep moving in that direction a month and a year from now.
Exactly. And it's just been over time. And I eat the way I eat. As I said earlier in the introduction, I wasn't ever a heavy woman, but the pounds just dropped like immediately when I first started eating plant-based. I actually dropped to 2 sizes and I freaked out because I'd never been the size before. Just never, and it kind of freaked me out because it was so sudden and drastic that I didn't even realize it.
I agree, Diane. And when we transitioned, we had it was not, it wasn't dramatic, but we had the exact same thing happen. And it was very subtle. And it wasn't something I was anticipating. I thought I'd always wanted to lose as a woman about 10 to 12 pounds, right? And I'd given up on it. And we changed because we wanted to improve our health.
Right.
And all of a sudden, my weight just naturally dropped 3 pounds. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Well, that's great. I'm happy with that. And then I noticed that it dropped another 3 pounds. And I thought, well, I'm even happier with this. But it was no effort at all. And finally, it stabilized at a very healthy weight and about 12 pounds less than when I started. But it happened without any effort except for eating, focusing on eating whole plant foods that I enjoyed. That's all my effort was on.
And not only did I lose weight, the mental chatter, the mental noise went away because I was always thinking about the next meal. And that's what I'm leading into now. What about the cravings in your experience?
I think cravings are real. And I don't think we should try to ignore them. This is my personal experience. I don't think you should try to ignore them. But what I do think you should do is try to pinpoint what you're craving and then try to find a healthy plant-based alternative. For instance, I happen to really like sweet foods. So I will make some phenomenal fruit shakes like bananas with some cocoa and some plant milk and a little stevia and a little bit of peanut butter. Not a lot, but enough. And it is so delicious. And it hits that craving of something smooth and creamy and chocolatey and filling. So I also make some really good plant-based cookies that don't have any added oils. And I find them to be very satisfying. If I tried to take all of those items out of my diet and just said, I'm going to be really strict, I think I'd have a much harder time enjoying this process.
And that's the key, enjoying the process. Mm-hmm. Because if you put pressure on yourself and you start telling yourself what you shouldn't eat, then that's not going to work long term.
Exactly.
It just isn't.
Yes.
But it was so interesting. My craving, and I was a hardcore sugar addict. Okay. It was really, really bad. But what was so interesting when I started focusing on just eating plant-based every day, I noticed that 3 months had passed and I hadn't had one sweet cake pie or anything. And it totally surprised me that I hadn't even thought about it.
And don't you find that what I found when I was eating the standard American diet was that the more I ate that type of food, the more I craved it. And so the less I ate it, the less I craved it. And that I agree. I was completely surprised by that as well.
Well, and if and I've done lots of research, attended nutrition school, and what I've learned is there's a lot in the processed food to keep us hooked. Our brains are naturally hardwired for those sweets. And actually, the foods are made, the processed food, with different chemicals and preservatives or whatever that's in them to help us to keep craving, like nicotine in cigarettes. It's a very similar process. So I say that becoming plant-based not only freed me from a health perspective, but from the mental burden of always thinking about food and craving sweets.
I agree. And this is a good spot for me to put in another thing that I believe in as well. And when I counsel people, this is something I mention, is that you're not going to probably do it when people are transitioning. You're not going to probably get it. You're going to be a rarity if you do it 100% perfect on your journey. So if you slip up and you make a mistake and you eat some of those, sweet things you used to eat, that's okay. Because the quicker you forgive yourself and then look at the experience and analyze it, the quicker you're going to get back on track. And you're looking for, what was in my regular whole foods plant-based meal that I was missing, and how can I fill it healthily? And then also, how did it make me feel when I ate the milkshake or donut or whatever? How did I feel? And most of the time when you talk to somebody, they're going to say, it didn't taste as good as I thought it was going to taste. I didn't sleep as well that night. I felt lethargic during the daytime. And if they can tap into those negative emotions associated with it, and then also make sure that they're finding some kind of a replacement within their whole foods diet, then that's what you that's how you create that change. And so if your listeners are thinking, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it perfectly, I think you're almost setting yourself up for failure, because it's okay to have a slip up as long as you take a good look at it and then figure out how you can do it a little bit differently next time.
And that's what I say. Don't tell yourself what you cannot have, because that mindset will definitely set you up to fail.
Yes, exactly.
So what do you tell busy people at work? I mean, I'm in and out of corporations all the time, and it's let's work in, let's order lunch, and nobody really, and I won't say nobody, but many people don't think about what they're eating. It's just, we'll order pizza. Mm-hmm. Right. So how do you help people in corporations to improve? How do you help people in corporations improve what they eat for lunch when they say they don't have time to really sit down and focus on what might be healthy?
Well, I think that our options have improved dramatically over the last 5 years. So it used to be, when I went into a corporation and they served lunch, it was really just like you said, pizza and subs and things like that. But now all it takes is just a slight change in the paradigm. And if they're ordering in foods, and they can order in vegetarian subs, I mean, there's phenomenal vegetarian subs that are available from commercially, Jimmy John's and Subway and all those. The other thing which I found, which has been really, really kind of neat, is that you can order from any of the Mexican chains like Chipotle or Taco Bell or Moe's or Qdoba. They offer a buffet where they'll bring in rice and beans and all the toppings and some tortillas. And that's the lunch that the corporation, or you can even get, veggie pizzas. But the point is that it's not like we don't have any options. It's just it's a more of an issue of just changing your paradigm just a bit. So that's the first thing. It doesn't take any more time to order that than it would be to order, a chicken club. So that would be one thing I would say. And then for busy professionals, that's for the luncheons. But I do have some strategies for people who are very busy as well, which we can talk about when you're ready. But
we're ready.
Okay. Because I am the queen planner. I drive my husband crazy. I find that for busy professionals, which you and I both fall into this category,
right,
that if you don't have a plan, then plant-based eating can be very difficult. And when you first start out, you're going to have to put a little bit more effort into it. So just realize that. So it's going to be for the first 3 weeks to 4 weeks, it's going to be a little bit more effort. But what you need to do is sit down on a Saturday or a Sunday, take a look at your week, and figure out, which days are incredibly busy for evenings and which days you have a bit more time. Those really busy days, you've got a few strategies. You can do batch cooking on the weekends where you make, 2 or 3 entrees and then freeze some to pull out when you walk in the door on Wednesday evening and you're exhausted. Or you can choose a super simple meal like a baked potato loaded with vegetables and some seasonings and nutritional yeast, something that you can just throw in the oven or the microwave and not think about it. Or you can purchase some frozen entrees that are plant-based, whole food plant-based. But if you don't plan ahead for those really crazy busy days, then you're going to walk in and say, this is too hard, I can't do it. But it's really not too hard. It's just you didn't anticipate it. And the other thing is, on those really busy days, you're already thinking about it anyways. You think, I'll stop. Or you can even stop at Chipotle and pick up a rice and bean bowl. But if you don't have a plan on those days and you're exhausted, you're almost guaranteed to fail. So for busy professionals, I'd like to see them start with a simple menu. This is what I'm going to do during the week, and plan ahead for those busy days. And then the same thing with breakfasts and lunches. I mean, when you're going to go out, this is what I'm going to get, this is where I'm going to go, or I'm going to pack this. Take a trip to the grocery store, stock up on a Saturday or Sunday so you're ready for the week. Make those meals ahead if you can. And then it becomes easier because you have a plan. Because if you have a plan, you can be successful.
That sounds so awesome. I mean, it's because we all feel, and as busy professionals, as you just said, the last thing I want to be conscious of what I eat, but it becomes hard if I have to think about every little detail. I mean, in the beginning I did. I carried a bag around with me, literally, with food in it, just so I wouldn't mess up.
That's great.
Just until I trained myself, because, I was new at it and I wanted to make sure that I ate the right things. So I carried them with me. I made sure that I made my lunch and I ate exactly what I had. But today is different. I don't like to cook that much. So I like, and you can talk about the Pure Nation's corporate meal programs. I use meal programs because I've found that when I travel, you never know where you're going. And some cities aren't as evolved with plant-based foods as other, but I've really solved that problem with ordering plant foods that are already prepared and flash frozen. And when I need one, I just take them, I put them in my suitcase. They actually get through the TSA with no problem. With no problem. So it has helped support me when I get busy. I can just go to what I need to eat. So it's been an awesome experience with plant-based. And food companies, fast food companies, they are evolving. Restaurants are evolving. So that is such a great thing. I feel a lot of the work is the mental unlearning that we have to do. What do you say to that?
Well, I agree with that. I just got to follow up on your first comment, and then I'll talk to you about the mental unlearning. But one thing that I think is really nice for busy professionals is we offer this kitchen starter packs. And there's 10 entrees and 2 salad dressings, and Kim Campbell designed them, and they are delicious. And all you do is you open it up, and it provides all the dry ingredients. And you add between like 3 and 5 super simple ingredients, like a can of tomatoes or a stalk of celery or some onions. And it creates 4 adult-sized entrees in a snap.
Yum.
I know. And it's for those people that are really busy professionals that are walking in the door and they're trying to feed a family. This is a really nice option for them, as well as the frozen entrees. Those are really nice as well. My husband and I both use the frozen entrees when we're busy, and we'll pop, we'll get 2 out and we'll pop them in the microwave. He has a Hot Logic warming tray he takes to work and uses, but those are good options for those busy professionals as well. The undoing the mental part that you talked about is really the challenge, right?
Yes.
It's the thought that, well, a couple of things. One is it took me a while to get used to, when I tried to change over, that the fact that animal protein was the center of the dish and everything else went around it. That was the big challenge for me.
Yeah.
What is that main dish going to really look like? And if I'm not cooking chicken, what am I actually cooking? And I think that nowadays, just like you said, it's so much easier. There's so many great cookbooks out there with great ideas. There's websites you can visit and get inspiration. It's just a matter of actually cooking and trying things you like and seeing how it works out.
So if the listeners are interested in checking out Pure Nation, how can they do that? How can they get in touch with you? Or if they ever have any questions at all, they're welcome to contact me directly, and you can put my email up there. I'm always happy to answer questions on my work email. If they're interested in looking at our food, then they can just type in plantpurenation.com. And at the bottom, there's a tab there's 3 boxes. One of them says Explore Our Foods, and you can play around with them. The nice thing about the foods is that they're very, very reasonable. And that's one of the things that we really strive to do, is to try to make it so that everyone can afford the food. So it's not an elite program, but more something that's very cost effective. Well, speaking of cost effective, I found that I can eat out every day, but buying the food, having a food delivery program, I've saved money because I can travel with the food. So I'm not worried about spending money when I go out, and it ends up being the same versus spending money for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which really adds up every day. And I don't have a lot of kids to feed anymore. So
I know. I'm the same way.
It makes it very, very simple. So I'm just so excited that there are other ways, I'm not even going to say alternatives, but there are ways to support ourselves in being healthy and living a longer life, because I saw some statistics, not only statistics, but I read an article, and the first thing that popped out was that our generation is not going to live as long as as our parents. I mean, it just kind of floored me reading that.
I agree. And when you were talking about busy professionals not having time, I think one thing we don't think about is if we're not taking excellent care of our health, we're wasting time. We're wasting time in the doctor's office for appointments because we have, chronic disease. We're wasting time filling prescriptions. We're wasting time off work because we're not feeling well. We don't have the same amount of energy as someone who has vibrant health. So there's so many hidden ways that we waste time when we don't feel as optimally healthy as possible. And I don't think many people think about that when they're thinking, oh, it's going to take more time to cut up vegetables. It might take you a bit more time, especially at the beginning. But once you get into a pattern, you're actually saving time overall because of how good you feel.
And also, just to add to what you said, I have clients that say, oh, it's expensive to eat plant food. But I say, and I advocate to them, is it more expensive to take insulin shots, to take medication for a lot of conditions? And as you know, our healthcare system is really in trouble right now because it can't sustain all the people that are being insured. And I can tell you, I have clients, I have friends that are at mid-career who have had triple bypass. They have diabetes. I mean, the list goes on and on at the conditions that manifest over time from not taking excellent care of ourselves.
Yes. And I think that whole concept that it's more expensive to be plant-based than eat the standard American diet is really incorrect. That is almost a misconception that's been repeated enough times that people believe it. But if you shop just like you would shop for any wise shopper pays attention to it, and you buy your fruits and vegetables when they're in season, you buy whole unprocessed grains and cans of beans and, pastas. It's actually much less costly to do that than it would be to buy, meat and dairy and processed, snack foods, all the things that we normally eat. 70% of our diet right now comes from processed foods, and that's very expensive to purchase.
Very expensive. And if you think about all the times you're craving and you're eating, another benefit that I've found with plant-based, I rarely snack.
Yes.
I rarely snack, literally.
Okay. I have to say, now I love to exercise. I do snack, but I snack on things like an apple and, and a few pecans, or I typically grab a piece of fruit. So I do snack in the middle of the day, but I find that for me, it's that my digestion is so clean that I power through my breakfast, I power through my lunch. And the more my diet is focused on whole unprocessed foods, the cleaner my digestion is. And I do find that I get hungry, but I think that's good because that means my metabolism is working.
And I love that food is not the main thing on my mind as it was in the past. I mean, I'm going to be so honest. I was literally driven by what was I going to eat, especially if it was something sweet. So I feel that I've just been freed up so that I can bring other things in to help serve others and help them also become better stewards of their health and wellness.
I completely agree with you, Diane. I was the same way. And I found, again, just like I said before, the more I was focused on those types of foods, sweets, especially for me, the more I wanted. So it was really freeing. That you're right. That's just a real gift.
It is a gift. And Laura, you've been so awesome sharing your life-changing information and tips and bringing awareness on how to transition from a standard American diet to a plant-based lifestyle. And I'm going to say lifestyle because this is no diet. This is no diet. It's something that you want to spend the rest of your life doing because it's really literally going to save your life and help you to live a high quality life over time as we all age.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And I think my closing comment on this is just remember that this should be a fun experience. This is not something that you have to white knuckle your way through. It should be enjoyable and delicious and cause you joy. And cause you to have more energy and feel better. And if you have those things, if you're experiencing those during your journey, then you're going to stick with it for a lifetime.
Laura, I really want to thank you for being here and sharing your life-changing information and tips and bringing awareness on transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle.
Thank you.
You can subscribe to the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals podcast by visiting www.balancedlivingforbusyprofessionals.com. It's so easy to listen while you drive, take the train, or walk to work. I want you to tune in to hear more health and wellness experts in episodes designed to help you improve your life no matter how busy your schedule. You can really create the life you want. I want to hear from you. Leave your comments, questions, or voicemail on the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals website or send me an email at feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Your feedback helps us to bring the best topics and information to help you make the changes that you really want in your life.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.